This is the Nothing Phone 3. So this phone was the spark for a lot of controversy, specifically just because of the way it was designed. And I've already done kind of an initial video on what I thought about everything about this phone. My initial thoughts were more or less kind of with everyone else, negative about the overall design of this phone. I mean, it's quite different. That being said, I also said that I'm glad that Nothing did this design because we haven't seen anything like it, and we don't see phone companies do things like this anymore. But now that I've got the phone in my hand, now that I've been using it for a few days, just kind of messing around with it, customizing it, just holding it, and most importantly, looking at it, I have done a complete 180 on my overall thoughts of this phone. Now, there's still things about this phone that I think look bad, but everything else I have completely switched up on. So in this video, this is going to be my initial first impressions of this phone, what I think about using it, how I'm going to use it in the future videos I'm going to make about it, and just the overall general specs of it as well. So let's get into it. Let's get into the good, let's get into the bad, and let's get into why I think I judged this phone a bit too harshly. Nothing gives you a fun unboxing experience with this box right here. Definitely a bigger package than you're used to. Inside you get the phone itself. They also include a free rubber clear case, and it's funny, you can, just by looking at this case, you can see how wild the design of this phone is with all these random cutouts. It's that just made me laugh. It looks kind of like a piece of cheese. You're gonna get your clear USB-C cable. They didn't include this with the Nothing Phone 3A, so I guess that's something they're just gonna keep for their flagship level stuff. Aside from that, you'll get your clear SIM removal tool and a few other papers. That is pretty much it. No charging brick or anything like that. Phone companies don't do that anymore. But if you are looking for a cool one to pair with your Nothing device, I encourage you guys to check out the company Charge. This is not sponsored, but they have sent a handful of their devices to include into my videos, and I just do genuinely like how they look, how they function. This specifically is their Pixel 140, up to 140 total watt output, but their aesthetics pair very nicely with Nothing, just with that whole clear technology look. So I encourage you guys, if you are looking for some stuff, to go ahead and check them out. I mean, just check out the Nothing cable with the Pixel 140. I mean, how can you not like that? That's pretty cool. Anyways, once you have all that unboxed and you've got the phone in the hand, what you're going to notice is that this does genuinely feel like a flagship phone. Nothing has called this their first true flagship, and I know that's kind of a hot take, I guess, depending on who you are. You got the aluminum sides, the glass front, and the glass back. I mean, it feels like any other premium phone, and it also kind of feels, I mean, it's hefty in the hand. I don't know if that has anything to do with the battery that they used, but I mean, this phone has some heft to it, and it feels good while you're holding it. The smoothness of the edges are nice to hold as well. There's really no sharp corners or anything like that. It's comfortable to hold. The size is nice. I found myself enjoying using this phone, just holding it and navigating it. Versus the Nothing Phone 3A, you've got the plastic sides, and it's a much lighter phone. It's Nothing Phone 3A still feels good in the hand. I enjoy using this as well, but there is a clear difference when you pick up the Nothing Phone 3, and you can immediately notice those higher quality materials that they used in the construction of this phone. Moving around the device, on the bottom, you're going to have your Type-C port for charging. You're going to have your bottom loudspeaker as well as your SIM card tray. On the right side, you're going to have your power button along with your essential key. Both those are aluminum, they're metal. On the top, you're going to have your top loudspeaker, and then on the left side, you're going to have your volume rockers. And then on the back, you're going to have that crazy, wacky design. And so this is the part where I think a lot of the controversy has come is the back design, because obviously it's unconventional. It's a lot different than what you're used to seeing out there. And initially, I wasn't a huge fan of this. I viewed it as a little too unconventional. Maybe the word I used was overcooked. But the more I started to look at it, the more I held it in my hand, specifically in person, the more it really grew on me, and the more it continues to grow on me. It's a nice looking phone. I specifically got mine in their black or their gray variant, so I can't really speak for the white version, but this dark version looks really good, really clean in person. And it's just cool to look at. It's something new, it's something fresh. I think they did a pretty good design for the most part. We'll get into that in a little bit. It's one of those things where you have it on the desk face down, and you look at it, you're like, that's a pretty cool device. That being said, I haven't switched up on everything. I'm still not a huge fan of the flash where they decided to put that location, and just being its own little circle is weird. That that far lens right there in the corner being off center, yeah, still not a huge fan of that. The OCD in me just it just drives me crazy a little bit. It's not the worst thing in the world though. It's not as bad in person. That's another reason why I just say that in person, when you actually see this phone, it's not near as bad as what you see online. It's a pretty cool looking device. And then you have the glyph matrix, another big topic of this phone. They completely they got rid of the glyph interface, which on the Nothing Phone 3 and all the other previous Nothing phones, you have these lights that will light up to display certain information, notifications, other things. They completely got rid of that. There are no actual like glyph lights on this phone. It's just that glyph matrix in the corner there. As you can see, it's like I think they said like 25 by 25 pixel display. I don't know, don't quote me on that, but if I get it close enough, you can count each individual pixel. It's just a little display to show you specific information, and you can play all sorts of different little games on there. And the way you activate it is a pressure sensitive button on the back. Let's see if I can do this. One of my gripes is it's actually not that easy to do. There you go. So if you just click, you can scroll through your different glyph toys. Let me see if I can get to focus. There we go. And then if you hold, so clicking through, and then if you hold and wait, then you'll activate the actual glyph toy. So this is the 8-ball. Is this just a gimmick? It says, nah, it's very confident in itself. But it is a little tricky to use. I mean, the pressure sensitive button isn't like the best thing in the world. It's a little, you kind of have to press down kind of hard. And I mean, it's okay. I think primarily they want you to use it with your thumb, holding it like this. In all honesty, the glyph matrix still, to me, is more gimmick than useful. As I've played around with it, the most useful functionality you're going to get out of it is with the customized text notifications. So like you can do a heart, or you can do certain flashes for whenever some specific person texts you. But that's doing exactly what the glyph interface did with the lights, just with a little bit more visual flair. Aside from that, the most useful thing I think you can do is display time on the back, and that's kind of what I have my first one set to, at least. And then the little mirror. So this is the icon for it. What you can do, if I go into it, it displays a very pixelated version of what you can see. So like that is my lens that you're looking at. Up here, you can see my monitor, and then you can take a photo with it too. If I can do this, if you hold down, let me see if I can get it to focus. Hold down. There you go. You saw the little like animation. And then if you go into your gallery, there's the photo that you took. So it's, you can kind of use it as like a selfie cam, and it works for the most part. Like you can frame yourself. It is actually useful. But I honestly probably just use the selfie cam on this phone because it's pretty good, and I'll get into that later. Those are just my first general thoughts on as I've used it. Maybe as I use it more, I'll get some more functionality out of it. But for now, the glyph matrix, to me, it just seems like they could have left the glyph interface there, and it would do the same thing. That really made Nothing stand out in terms of, getting it kind of put on the map. They have opened it up to the public to develop their own glyph toys, so it'll be cool to see the functionality evolve as, the longer this phone is released to the public. So that is cool, and I am excited to see what else people can create and use this glyph matrix for. Moving on to the display is awesome. It is a 6.6-inch OLED panel, I believe, with 120 hertz refresh rate and HDR10 plus with 4,500 nits peak brightness. Consuming media on this display is a genuine pleasure. It does a really good job. The colors are awesome. The brightness is great. It's nothing like the Galaxy S25 Ultra, but it still seems like a pretty nice, flagship level display. I mean, just scrolling through things, just using it generally, I mean, it's buttery smooth. Like I said, everything looks great. I really don't have any complaints with the display. The bezels are a bit thicker than what I've been used to with the Galaxy S25 Ultra, so maybe not quite as flagship in that department, but bezels don't really bother me that much anyways. So overall, looking at this display and using it has been phenomenal. All right, so let's dive into the nitty gritty specs real quick. The specific model that I purchased was the 16 gigs of RAM with 512 gigs of storage. The phone ships with Android 15 running Nothing OS 3.5, and the main chipset is going to be the Snapdragon 8S Gen 4. And so that right there is also a part of the controversy with this phone. A lot of people were complaining that it's not a true flagship because it doesn't have your Snapdragon 8 Elite or something like that, which is a fair point considering the price level that they put this at. But in all honesty, as I use this device, I mean, it's buttery smooth and it's blazing fast for pretty much everything that I've used it for. Slight photo editing, running social apps, watching YouTube, just, your general stuff that I think the general population will do with this phone. I mean, I have had zero issues with this chipset so far. The 16 gigs of RAM is nice for having multiple apps open and just functionality as you're using the device. It's, like I said, very smooth, and I have had zero issues with it, and I don't think anyone else is going to have any issues or let alone notice that it's, not some latest chip. And Nothing OS, let me tell you, Nothing OS I think is probably my favorite version of Android that I've used. I don't know if that's because it was the first version of Android that I used, but I mean, I've been using the Galaxy S25 Ultra as my main device running One UI 7, and it's nice. I love One UI 7, but there's something about Nothing OS that's just very, very clean. I love the Nothing icons. I love the customization that you can do with it, and just how everything looks, how everything runs. It's awesome. The dark mode paired with this specific black model of this phone, it just looks so good. And it's something that I find myself as I use it, kind of similar with iOS. It's just very satisfying to use and look at. So I love Nothing OS and everything that you can do with it, and specifically these icons. And so tying all that together, it's a part of the reason why I enjoy using this device so much is just the feel of it, the design, the functionality, how it functions, and the look of the OS. It's a really good experience, and it's a fun experience. Battery life has been great so far. I've only charged it fully up once, and that was like 3 days ago, and I'm only at 56% right now. And I mean, granted, I haven't used it a whole lot, but still, battery life has been awesome so far. You get a 5,150 milliamp hour battery with up to 65 watts wired charging, and then 15 watt wireless charging, I believe. They have definitely optimized this thing very well with their chipset that they're using to maximize the battery life that you're getting out of this battery, and it shows. I'll have to go through a full day using this device sometime soon, and then I can report back what the battery life is like then, but so far, for now, it has been doing quite well. And last but not least, the camera system. I kind of got into it with the glyph matrix in what you can do with those high quality selfies using the back cameras, but like I said, the selfie camera on this thing is actually pretty good because it is a 50 megapixel selfie camera. In fact, every single camera on this thing is 50 megapixels. You get a 50 megapixel ultra wide, no OIS, then you get a 50 megapixel main wide with OIS and a 50 megapixel 3x telephoto with OIS as well, with 4K all the way up to 60 frames a second on all the back cameras as well as your selfie camera. I was actually really impressed with the camera system on the Nothing Phone 3A, and so far this one has impressed me as well. I haven't had a whole lot of time to mess around with it, but I have done a few photos here and there and messed around with the video capabilities too, and it seems good. The biggest issue I had with the 3A was the difference in temperature, the color shift as you were switching between each camera. And so I'm really curious to see if that's going to be the case for this one as well. I'm going to release a full video on the Nothing Phone 3 camera system, so be sure and subscribe if you'd like to see that. I love doing those kinds of videos. I can't wait to dive into the system for this specific phone. Something that's also really fun is that when you record video, the red square on the back is now a record light, which the videographer in me just loves that. I think that is such a cool feature. Does it do much? No. But is it cool, and does it actually have a little bit of functionality? Absolutely. Anyways, guys, that is it. That is my first initial impressions of the Nothing Phone 3. Like I said, perhaps I judged it too harshly. This is one of those phones that I definitely encourage you, if you're not gonna actually buy one, at least go find one in real life and actually see the physical device, because there's a handful of times where devices, you kind of have to see it in person to get the full effect of it. This is heavily one of those devices. Actually holding it, using it paired with the OS, like this is a awesome premium feeling device. And while it may be lacking in the chipset department and other areas that other, flagship devices are way superior, it doesn't necessarily mean that this isn't a flagship. It still very much feels and functions as a flagship. Is it perfect? No. Does it have to be? No, because no device is. But I am happy that nothing, like I said in my other video, that they decided to do this. They decided to really push the envelope with their designs. Like I said, they missed on a few things, but that's okay. I would prefer them do that than just kind of continue to put out the same thing over and over again, because we're kind of in that landscape right now in the smartphone world. We're in this plateau, this just stagnant water of designs where it's kind of the same thing across all different brands. So it is refreshing to see when companies branch out. That's why I just like Nothing as a company, and I think they handle criticism really well, and I think they'll learn based off of the things that people haven't liked with this device, and I'm sure they're going to improve it for the next one. Definitely excited to continue to jump into this device, use it just with the OS, with the the haptics, the sound effects even, paired with the design. It is a fun experience, and it's one that I'm enjoying now, and I think I will definitely continue to enjoy as I dive deeper into this device. It is going to have to be more of a secondary device rather than a main, because just a warning to you other US users out there, I've had a lot of difficulty trying to get this to work on the US AT&T network. Getting my eSIM switched over has proven to be fairly difficult, and it's been difficult for AT&T themselves. I've just had a lot of issues. So hopefully I can eventually do that, but as of now, just a fair warning to you US users, specifically on AT&T, I don't think it's recognized as an actual device that is on the network. But like I said, hopefully I can get it figured out sooner rather than later. Those of you overseas, though, shouldn't have any issues with this. But yeah, guys, that is it. That is my first initial impressions of the Nothing Phone 3. What do you guys think? You guys hate it? Do you guys love it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But that is it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. But as always, that is enough watching, enough consuming content, guys. Get out there and create your own. Create something yourself. I will see you all in the next video.